So Andy Lee and Peter Quillin battled to a 12-round split decision draw. Now, the most unusual thing here is that I not only agreed with Barry Jones, the Box Nation commentator's scorecard, but I also agreed with the judges' scorecards pretty much. That's very, very unusual for me to agree with the judges and to agree with the Box Nation commentary team. So that was the first strange thing about this fight. And in fact, let me just give you my scorecard right off the bat, round by round. First round, I had it 10-8 for Quillin. Second round, 10-9 for Quillin. Third round, 10-8 for Quillin. Fourth round, 10-10 even. Fifth round, 10-9 to Quillin. Sixth round, 10-9 to Lee. Seventh round, 10-8 to Lee. Eighth round, 10-9 to Lee. Ninth round, 10-9 to Lee. 10th round, 10-9 to Lee. 11th round, 10-9 to Lee. And the 12th round, I gave it 10-9 to Quillin. So I had it 113, 113, a draw. A genuine draw, in my opinion. Definitely a genuine draw. Now, as far as what happened in the fight, I mean, Andy Lee was seriously hurt in the first round with that big right hand from Peter Quillin. He went down hard. He got up on seriously rubbery legs, but he stayed very composed. You know, fair play to him. He didn't panic. He didn't do an Amir Khan. He stayed very composed, but whew, he's very fortunate that that knockdown didn't occur a minute earlier in the round, or it might have been a first round knockout victory for Peter Quillin. But Andy Lee survived it. He weathered the early storm because Quillin was dangerous in the early rounds. But inexplicably, after 5 or 6 rounds, Peter Quillin stopped throwing punches. You explain to me why he stopped throwing punches. Now, he obviously got dropped himself. He managed to drop Andy Lee again in the third round, which wasn't really a knockdown, to be fair. Stepped on Andy Lee's foot and Lee went down. And then Peter Quillin himself was dropped in the... Let me check. What round was it that Peter Quillin was dropped? It was the 7th round where Peter Quillin went down from a right hook from Andy Lee. Quillin wasn't really hurt himself. You know, it was definitely a genuine knockdown, but he wasn't seriously shaken or anything. But after that, Peter Quillin stopped throwing punches. Now, it has to be said, I've seen Peter Quillin behave similar to this in other fights. Even in the Rosado fight, he wasn't throwing any damn punches late in that fight. And there's been other fights where he's done stuff similar to this as well. I think Peter Quillin is a very anxious fighter. You know, he fights with, and I've mentioned this in previous videos about Peter Quillin, he fights with his eyes popping out of his head like Chris Tucker. Like, what's up with that? He seems to be very anxious when he fights. Like, he's really afraid to get hit. Like, Audley Harrison was another one similar to that. His eyes would be popping out of his head and he's really afraid of getting hit. And because he's anxious, he doesn't let his hands go. You know, so I don't know why the guy is as anxious as he is. Maybe he's been knocked out in sparring. Maybe he's had some type of incident that's happened to him at some stage of his career, whether it was an amateur or a pro, which has left a lasting impression on him. But he seems to be a very, very anxious fighter. He has jittery body movement. He's just very awkward looking in the ring, Peter Quillin. But the unfortunate thing is he does actually have some ability there. He's got quick hands when he lets his shots go. He can obviously punch with both hands. He hurt Andy Lee badly in this fight. And he's, dropped a lot of other fighters along the way. But his refusal to commit, particularly after Lee dropped him, cost him this fight. And he was ahead by a massive margin at the halfway stage. Certainly after 5 rounds, he was in a huge lead. And how in the world he could have just allowed Andy Lee to basically outwork him for the rest of the fight when Lee wasn't doing anything really sophisticated. If he would have just put the pressure on, like, say, a Chavez or whatever, he could have won the fight. He could have kept his lead and won the fight. But he was so afraid, it seems, of getting hit. Either he was afraid of getting hit or he was afraid of expending too much energy and blowing himself out, because it seems that Peter Quillin is struggling at the weight and he obviously missed weight for this fight. Maybe it was a combination of the two factors. Maybe it was the fact that he was worried about getting hit because he's an anxious fighter, and he was also worried about his stamina because he's struggling at the weight. I don't know what it is, but the lack of urgency from Peter Quillin, especially when his corner were telling him Andy Lee's coming back into the fight, that's disturbing. Where was his urgency? Where was his, his drive and his determination to pull it out the bag when it was slipping away from him? Peter Quillin just seems like he's going along for the ride. There's no urgency from this guy. And you really have to question, does he really want to fight? Does he really want to box? If he can let a fight that was you know, easily in his grasp, slip away so badly like that, you have to question this guy's commitment to the sport of boxing. Does he really want to do this thing? You know, you really have to question him, man, because any other fighter would have been going hell for leather to make sure that this Andy Lee guy don't steal the fight. But Peter Quillin just allowed it to slip away and was just happy to be there. And this kind of fits into his demeanor in the interview, which I directed people to in my prediction change video, because his demeanor in that interview was of someone who's just way too humble and way too, I don't know how to describe it, but he didn't seem like someone who really wanted to win the fight. He just seemed like someone, he was saying, oh, I'm nobody and I'm just here like anybody else, just trying to make my way. That's not what you want to hear from a guy going into a big fight, man. You want to hear a guy 100% determined and committed. But clearly, evidently from his performance, his heart ain't in this boxing thing. And I don't think that his mindset was necessarily any different in this fight based on the performance than it was in previous fights. I think that this psychological issue that Peter Quillin has is a long-standing issue. That's what I think. I think it's a long-standing issue because I think it explains some of his other lackluster performances in the past. This guy really, I don't think his heart is really in boxing. This is a guy who relinquished his title and he said he was having personal problems. Then he comes into this fight and, you know, relinquishes the title before he even gets to fight for it because he didn't make weight. Gets in the ring, has a massive lead through the first half of the fight and just inexplicably gives it away by not throwing any punches. This guy don't even want to box, man. He don't want to box. So it is what it is. Andy Lee keeps his WBO title. I think a draw was a fair result. And, you know, in terms of the technical things in the fight, Peter Quillin was looking for that big right hand. Some people might feel that Peter Quillin maybe got a bit too happy with his power because of the fact that he had success early on. However you want to interpret it, I don't know, but some people may feel that. On the inside, when they exchanged on the inside, Peter Quillin was definitely the boss. Peter Quillin had much quicker hands on the inside, and Andy Lee really couldn't hang with him in there. But when Andy Lee was boxing at long range, he was just, you know, picking and poking shots here and there. And because Peter Quillin wasn't throwing anything, Andy Lee was winning. So Andy Lee was having all his success from the outside. When anything was up close, Peter Quillin, I think with his extra physical strength and his quicker hands up close, was getting the better of all those inside exchanges. But whatever the case may be, odd fight, strange performance from Peter Quillin, and not the first time he's put in a strange performance. Andy Lee gets to keep his belt, and he can defend it in Ireland against Billy Joe Saunders, or maybe he'll have a rematch with Peter Quillin. I doubt it, though. I really doubt he'll have a rematch with Peter Quillin because, as I keep saying, I don't think Peter Quillin is really on this boxing thing, man. I don't know where his mind is at. Very, very strange guy. Needs to sort himself out, you know. Drop your comments below, people. Let me know how you felt about this fight. And how do you see Andy Lee versus Billy Joe Saunders going? That's the thing. And what do you think about Peter Quillin? How can you explain this guy not throwing any punches and completely giving the fight away and not having any sense of urgency at all in the second half of the fight? Can anyone explain that? It's really, really strange stuff. Drop your comments below. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.